Hello friends and welcome to Figure Study, where if you think you've seen this before, don't worry, it's not you. This is actually very similar to something that we've looked at on the channel before. This is Miniforce TriHawkKing, which is a downscaled and recolored figure of Miniforce X's Raybot, which I did look at quite a while ago at this point, actually. And this is, for all intents and purposes, the same figure, but smaller, with a different color scheme, and let's go with better tolerances with some of the joints. So I'm going to say this right off the bat. I really liked Raybot. Thought it was a really cool design, really cool deco. I thought it was a fun toy, but TriHawkKing is a marked improvement in pretty much every conceivable way. I know that's big talk, but seriously, TriHawkKing is smaller, so he fits on my shelf a little bit better. The plastic actually feels better from what I remember from Raybot. Not that Raybot's plastic was bad, but like this feels like really good plastic. The coloring, at least as far as I'm concerned, is way better. You actually can see details now at the very least. And the joint tolerances are so much better. Like certain things are now ratchet joints that weren't ratchet joints before, and things hold a lot better, things settle in a lot better. It's just a better figure than Raybot. Like they just made it better and smaller so it fits on my shelf. I appreciate that so much. Just in case you need a reminder or you don't feel like checking out the old video right now, this is what Raybot looks like in car mode. And it's the same exact car, but I like it so much more with TriHawkKing because now, instead of just being black with some of these nice gold and silver details, it's black and red. The red is kind of take it or leave it. I think it's a fine color. I probably would have preferred a different color, like maybe blue or something like that. But like the fact that so much more is separated out in another color now makes such a big difference. It really makes the contours of the car easier to make out. I like how now it's just the center strip of the car that's black, and then the outside is this red color. I think that's just kind of a fun design. And you can see some of the details a little bit better, like the door handles, these little molded bits on the side. It just separates things out so nicely. The rest of the details, from what I can see, are pretty much the same as what we got with Raybot, but I like the gold accents that we've got in a few places, like above the rear wheel well, the strips along the top, the strips on the hood, the little bits for these little winglets in back, and of course the silver for the rims, which we've got on all sides, and all of the really nice gold and silver details that are painted in the front here. Like there's a lot of really nice detail going on in here that's been painted very nicely. I'm saying very nice a lot, I'm sorry, but this is a really cool car mode, which is pretty much the same car mode that we got with Raybot, but now with some added red, and I think, again, the addition of that red makes a huge difference. And that will carry over into the other modes as well, but for now, let's get TriHawkKing settled back there and do some quick size comparisons. So here he is with the standard deluxe squad, and you can see that even though this has been downsized, it's still quite a bit larger than a deluxe. Like seriously, this guy is almost the size of a Tobot V figure. He's not quite as big, not quite as dense and heavy, but definitely close. And it's just wild to think that that's after it's been downsized. And of course, here he is with the duck tank. Alright, car mode down, on to the next mode. So first thing for the transformation, going to pop these bits off, and popping these on and off is actually a little bit easier than it was for the original Raybot figure, so I appreciate that. And this comes down, going to extend the front of the car, like so. Flip these bits up, and then these things that are obviously arms are going to come down, and we're going to flip out these talons, split the legs, and bring those out. And what I prefer to do, the instructions are just bring it out like that. I think that looks terrible, so instead I'm going to rotate at the thigh and bring it out like that, because I think that makes these bits look a little bit cleaner. Fold this section here out, and this is the same as what we got with the original Raybot, except now it just kind of flips out and stays there. There's no extra little joint that you use to like shore this up. And this actually works really well because since the figure is smaller, the bits aren't as heavy. So when we bring these in and clip these into these little bits here, they're not anywhere near as thick and heavy as they were with the original figure, so it doesn't even need that extra joint to keep this bit stationary. Like this, as you can see, it stays up pretty well on its own. And lastly, pop this door open and pull out the bird head. And there we've got the bird mode. So here we've got TriHawkKing's bird mode, and it's just as weird looking as Raybot's bird mode, but it holds together a lot better. The joints are a little bit stronger, but I think that may also be because of the fact that it's just smaller, so there's less weight that the joints have to hold, which definitely work in this figure's favor. Also, if you want, you could bring these down to kind of fill in those wing sections a bit. But yeah, I actually, I've never been a huge fan of the bird mode for Raybot or TriHawkKing, but I do definitely appreciate how much better and more solid it is with TriHawkKing because it's just not as heavy. Again, the addition of all these red bits, I think, just help to separate things out, because the color scheme on Raybot is, I like the black, purple, and gold. I think it looked good, but in this case, having the red everywhere really helps to separate out the colors more and bring out more detail. I particularly like how, and granted this is a fan mode, because the legs are supposed to be like this, but again, I think that looks bad, and I just think it looks better to have the kind of angled bits pointing forward. It makes things look a little bit smoother for the wings. But I like how if you do it this way and bring these flaps back, it actually color matches way better and makes it, at least from the top, look more like a cohesive wing. It's still the front half of a car and not actually a wing, but it does make it look smoother. And there we can see the bird head, which is pretty much the same as the bird head that we got with Raybot, just colored a little bit differently, and now we've got the red up here. And that's pretty much all I can say about the bird mode. So let's turn him back into a car real quick. And let's go to robot mode now. So it's going to be some of the same steps as before. Extend this bit, let's pull out the legs. Now we're going to flip this thing back, and there's these little slots underneath here, and these little kind of tabs that stick up here. You want to angle this back so that they go over those tabs, and that just kind of keeps those in place. Pull down the toes, flip up these panels again, bring up these arms, split the legs, and bring those out a click. With all the legs done, now I'm going to grab these bits and pull them out, rotate these up, and then rotate them down, give them arms, and just because I'm going to open up the fingers a little bit, just because we can. And there we've got most of the robot done. Around back, I want to grab these bits and flare them out. You can see where they separate here and here, just right there, and that's also got a little nice ratchet to it. Now we want to deal with the wings on the back, so these come out and these fold out, and this is another improvement that I really like. And I'll get into why I really love the changes that they made for these bits in a second, but first I made a mistake. I want to keep these in because it gives you room to bring these down and rotate that up. When these are up, you can see that it clashes into that. So it's just much easier to get these oriented if you leave these down and bring them up that way. So again, extend this, bring it down, rotate it, and now we can flare these out. And finally, grab this panel here, flip it over, and there we've got the head, and there we've got TriHawkKing in his robot mode, and this, again, I think is even better than Raybot. I wasn't entirely sold on the red and black and white color scheme at first, but the red really pops. Now, in terms of the improvements to those wings I was talking about during transformation, what's really great about this is they added, and again, I don't remember the specifics with Raybot to know how different this is, but there are these really solid ratchets for these joints, and there's actually a stop when you're bringing the smaller bit up. This was something that was definitely not a part of Raybot. Like, you can push these further up if you want, but there's actually a natural stopping point that you can feel when you bring this up, and it just kind of stops and settles into place here. You can feel some resistance. Raybot didn't have that, so you just had to kind of guess what angle these were supposed to go at. So I greatly appreciate having an actual like kind of soft stopping point for these wingtips. It just makes a big difference in my mind for the transformation because you don't have to worry about where it's supposed to settle into place anymore. Now, as I said, it has been a few years. Has it really been a few years? It's been a while, at least, since I looked at Raybot, so I don't remember all the particulars of the transformation and joints and stuff like that. I feel like Raybot did have an extra soft ratchety joint that made the shoulders come up just a tiny bit more and like angle out a bit. Unfortunately, TriHawkKing does not have that, but still what we're left with is a really cool looking robot. Despite my being enamored with the little wing transformation changes, well, not really change, but let's say upgrade, TriHawkKing is Raybot. This is the exact same figure, but smaller. And I actually really, really like it that way. The smaller size means it doesn't get in its own way anymore. You don't have to worry about the weight of the figure weighing down those joints. Like I said before, like this is just improvements all around. And I really, really like this. I'm glad I didn't end up spending a ton of money to get myself another Raybot and instead just sat on it for a while. And then I saw this and was like, you know what, I'll get that. I didn't know that it was smaller at first, but I'm actually really, really into this. And just like with the car and bird mode, but actually more than with the car and bird mode, the red here is just, I love it. As I said, I probably would have preferred a different color than red because red isn't one of my favorites, but I can't deny that it looks great. And having that added separation just makes such a big difference because Raybot, for all of his coolness, there was a lot of black. But here it's like red with black and white, and it just separates the colors so much better. The red is nice and bright, not like super duper vibrant, but like it's a really nice shade of red. It works really well with the black and white and gold. And again, just the separation, the paint deco and apps that they went with for this versus with Raybot works so much better. Everything, all the details just pop so much harder with TriHawkKing. TriHawkKing's head is also exactly the same as Raybot. It's really neat looking, and it's separated out really nicely too. I like the fact the helmet is in red, and then the side bits, horns or whatever on the side are in black. The interior is kind of like black with the silver for the faceplate, and then gold for the eyes, and this really nice gold head crest. It's all separated out really nicely. I'm not sure how I feel about the white for the flap though. I mean, it works, but I kind of feel like black would have been good because then it would keep everything kind of feeling like this is one big torso section where everything's kind of nestled together. But at the same time, there's white breaking up the torso in other places, so it doesn't look out of place. The only real gripe that I have is that this flap doesn't tab in or settle in really at all. It just kind of goes, sits, and like it's really easy to jostle out of place. And I wish that that could lock in a little bit better. And it's annoying because the joint is really just fine going out and rotating back. Like that, it sticks really nicely, but just going this way, when it gets to here, it's just, that's not great. It's not a huge thing to deal with, but it's just irritating, you know? But while we're here, for the articulation, the head can turn left and right. It's a little bit limited, but it does turn. And if you use that flap, you can look up a little bit, but it looks terrible. The arms can go around. They can't do a full 360 because of the wings on the back here, but can go around like that. They don't go out here, but they do go out here. You don't get any bicep swivels though, and that's disappointing. That is one thing I really wish that this figure had. Yeah, it would still give him curling iron arms, but at least he'd be able to rotate his arms more successfully than how you have to do it here, because the only way to rotate the arms here is to use this transformation joint. And it looks okay from like to certain degrees, from certain angles, but if you want to do something like this, then it really kind of starts to look a little bit not great. And that's, yeah, I wish that you had a bicep swivel. Also does the curling iron arm thing, so I also feel like, you know, bicep swivel and a not crappy elbow would be nice. Or being able to rotate the hand would also be nice, like if this could rotate, but it can't. But the fingers open and close for some reason. It doesn't serve any purpose for the transformation, but hey. There is no waist articulation, which I do understand because you've got this flap that comes up and that clips down, and that's going to just keep anything from rotating down there. The legs get a decent amount of movement though. If we rotate this bit up, can bring the leg up pretty much to 90 degrees. Can't go back pretty much at all because of the way it all nestles in here. Can go out to about there, but if we bring this in, can go out a lot further. Get a thigh swivel that is very heavily ratcheted. And then for the knee, you've got slightly under 90 degrees, which I think is fine, especially considering it's on a slider mechanism, so that knee gets sucked into the leg. So I can always appreciate when they still give a figure knee joints after it uses a slider like that, because not all Korean figures do that. And then for the feet, you can use the transformation joint to get some toe movement. And it's more useful than you'd think because, again, since the joints are pretty nicely ratcheted and the figure is smaller and not as heavy, it actually works pretty well for like stepping forward type poses. So you can't do anything like super dynamic with TriHawkKing, but you can do some stuff and it does look good. Oh, also, I forgot to mention it, but you can do some stuff with the wings. You can kind of go in and out a little bit, but the ratchet prevents it from moving too much. You can rotate them slightly, but with this bit out, that kind of gets in the way. You can rotate them. You can go up and down on this ratchet. That's as far down as you can go. So you can go up pretty much all the way. And then these bits on the tip can fold down for the transformation and can fold up. And if you really want to, you can push it past that soft locking point and push them up past that. And yeah, that's pretty much it for TriHawkKing's robot mode. I think, as I said, it looks really cool, but also there's the fact that it's just better than Raybot. I was not expecting that. Bringing out the standard deluxe squad, you can see that he is still way bigger than a deluxe, but not like cartoonishly huge compared to a lot of other Korean transforming robot toys that I've got. So I need to adjust that shoulder. There we go. He is large, but not like absurdly large like a lot of these things tend to be. Case in point, here he is with Tobot v Wild Chief, and yeah, even though they were relatively close to the same size in vehicle mode, I mean, Wild Chief was bigger, but still relatively close. Wild Chief is noticeably taller. For another Miniforce comparison, now let me readjust. So for another Miniforce comparison, here he is with Animaltron Jawscop, and yeah, Jawscop is really tall, so this is perhaps not the most fair comparison. And let me bring it back in again. Here he is with the Duck Tank. So I feel like I've been saying this over and over again throughout this video, and I know I have, but I really like TriHawkKing because I really like Raybot's design, but TriHawkKing does it better. The added colors, the color separation makes such a huge difference. It really makes more of those details and the shape of the robot bits stand out way better. The joints are nicer, except the thigh swivels I really wish weren't ratcheted, but other than that, the joints are way nicer. It would have been cool if they added more, but the fact that they improved pretty much all of the joints across the board definitely helps. And not only that, but because the joints are improved and the figure is smaller and lighter, you've got just better tolerances all around. This guy feels fantastic. Raybot was no slouch. It didn't feel like a knockoff or anything like that. But TriHawkKing, just the plastic density and heft and the jointage, it just makes a really, really nice feeling figure. I feel like this is probably a little bit hyperbolic sounding, but it's true. Out of all of the Korean transforming robot toys that I have, all the Tobots, all the Helicarbots, all the Miniforce figures, all of that, he may actually be the best feeling figure in terms of like plastic quality and density. I cannot overstate just how incredible this figure feels, just from a tactile sense. But that's been enough rambling about Miniforce TriHawkKing. I absolutely would recommend this. If you like the Raybot design and either can't track one down or don't feel like spending the absurd amounts of money that people are asking for one, absolutely get this. With all of that out of the way, that has been my look at Miniforce TriHawkKing. What do you all think of this guy, or Raybot, or how the two of them compare to each other? But whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. If you like this video or any of the other videos that I've done and want to support the channel outside of watching the video in the first place, I do also have a Patreon. It's just a single $1 tier. It's the only one I've got, and that $1 tier gets you early access to new videos, access to the occasional behind the scenes posts that I make, And eventually I'm going to start doing polls, so if you want to have any kind of input on what happens with the channel from time to time, that is also an option. With all that out of the way, thank you everybody for watching, and remember, art is more than meets the eye, and sometimes better when it's made smaller.